we left off with our last fact witnesses before we moved into the expert witnesses. Where we were at is that the team had found Quentin, right?
Yes.
And that was what day?
That was on November 18th.
Okay. In the days following November 18th, was the defendant interviewed one final time?
Yes, she was.
Before we get to that, I want to ask you kind of a few miscellaneous questions about some things.
Sure.
Okay. The first is a question about venue, and I may have hit this, but I just want to make sure. Have you reviewed the indictment in this case?
Yes, I have.
Have you seen that it alleges a number of false statements on a number of different dates?
Yes, it does.
Are you aware of all of those statements and where they were made?
Yes.
And were they all made in Chatham County?
Yes, they were.
That's for every false statement charge in the indictment?
Correct, yes.
Okay. There has been an exhibit admitted into evidence as State's Exhibit 62, Circle K footage.
Yes, sir.
And which one of the two trips that night would that footage have been from, the first or the second?
It's her first trip that night.
Now, have you reviewed that footage?
Yes, I have.
And is it fair to say that it includes a bunch of different camera angles?
Yes.
Is there a camera angle in which you can tell exactly what it is that she purchases?
Yes, there is.
And how is it that you can see exactly what it is that she purchases during that trip?
Yeah. So it faces, the camera angle faces the register as well as what is being rung up by the cashier. So you're actually seeing the receipt as it's actively being run up.
I'd like to display for you the portion of State's Exhibit 63 that I think you're talking about. So what I've done here is I've opened up the player that includes all this footage, and it's a whole bunch of camera angles, right?
Yes, it is.
In here we've picked the register camera that you're talking about and made it full screen, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So sort of an overhead view of the register that she pays at?
Correct.
Okay. Can you tell us where on the screen we can see what it is that she purchases? And you can step down to do that.
Yep. So on the left,
Walk us through it line by line, please.
on the left side of the screen, you see like an itemized list of what's occurring with the register, as well as a quantity. So our targets are right here. We have a natural light 25-ounce can. The quantity's changed to 2 cans. And then we have the Cigarillos green, quantity changed to 2. And then, driver's license scanned, and that's the transaction for Leilani's purchase that night.
Can you tell us where we are in the timestamp here?
So the timestamp that we're paused at right now is 10:29 p.m. on the 4th of October.
All right. And I'm going to hit play from here and we'll just watch the transaction, okay?
Okay.
Is it moving or not?
cigarette loaves.
Stop the playback at 10:31:22. Now, moving on to another miscellaneous item. Do you remember hearing Officer Schenker of the crime scene unit or forensics unit talking about the substance that was found in the back of the Dodge Journey?
Yes, I do.
Did you look back at the file to see whether you could figure anything out about what that was?
So in Schenker's testimony, and it was previously mentioned, we believed it was like a rice cereal. That's also what Ms. Leilani told us it was.
All right, and have you prepared an exhibit to address this issue?
Yes.
I'd like to approach with what I've marked as State's Exhibit 94A and 94B.
Okay.
Do you recognize those two items?
Yes, I do.
Can you describe to us what they are?
Sure. 94A is going to be a PowerPoint of what 94B's printout is. It's a collection of photographs with the rice cereal.
Okay, so 94A is the disc, 94B is the printout of that?
Yes.
All right. I would introduce this in as 94A and B.
No objection, Your Honor.
94AB are admitted without objection.
Just need a moment here, Your Honor. All right. I think I've got this working right now. And I'm trying hard not to have to ask for a recess here because we're in the home stretch, okay? What is this first slide here show?
So this is a photograph of the back of the Dodge Journey that was taken on 10/6, and it's kind of just displaying the rice cereal in the back of the vehicle.
Appears to be pretty evenly and widely distributed.
Yes, it is everywhere.
Moving to the next slide, what is this we're going to see here?
This is just a short clip of the interview we conducted on 10/5, where she's explaining what that is in the back of her vehicle.
Now, just to make sure we're clear here, the date stamp in the top left corner says 10/6. Can you just, I'm not catching it, I don't want anybody to be confused.
Yeah, it's the 10/5 interview, but it's early in the morning on 10/6, so technically it's the next day.
Almost 5 minutes after midnight.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I can see it. Yeah, I'm sorry, I guess I got that fast. Almost made it through the whole thing.
5-10 minute break, we'll see how this goes. All right.
Containers of the rice cereal, like baby rice cereal.
Moving on to the next slide, what is this image?
This is just a more clear view that Officer Schenker, it's a photograph that he took that night. And again, you're seeing the bar area and those two images of rice cereal, or 2 containers of rice cereal.
The next slide, what have we done here? Just zoomed in on that one?
Correct.
Okay. And then the final slide, what is this?
This is just a Google image of what we were previously looking at.
Okay. Gerber cereal for baby rice type?
Yes.
Okay. So those 2 canisters were out there on the tiki bar when police first arrived.
Correct.
And the defendant had told you she took them inside like a month ago,
Yes.
or more than a month ago, I think.
Yes.
Any reason you know of that those things would be outside?
Objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation.
Sustained.
No further questions on this exhibit. Let's talk about the final interview of the defendant. What was the date again?
Her final interview was on November 21st
And where was it conducted?
at the FBI office.
By this time, Quentin had been found on November 18th.
Yes, he had.
And at this point, had you taken out warrants, at the time of this November 21 interview, had you taken out warrants for the arrest for the defendant?
Yes, I did.
Now, were y'all bringing her in there in part at least to notify her that the remains had been discovered?
Yes.
And did she know that before she entered the interview room with y'all and was told that?
That the remains were discovered? No.
Did she know before the interview began, though, that she was being arrested?
She assumed so, yes.
Okay. And y'all had, who did y'all correspond with to get her in? that day to the FBI office.
Yep, her mother, Billy Joe.
And she had been told that the defendant was being arrested that day, right?
I don't believe we told Billy either. I believe they both just assumed that's what was happening that day.
Okay. Where in the FBI office did the interview take place?
It's in the interview room, which is in like the front corridor area.
Now, is it fair to say that this was the first interview in which she was not free to leave?
Yes.
It was in police custody at this point.
Yes, she was.
Given that, did you all, at the outset of the interview, advise her of her Miranda rights?
Yes.
Did you advise her of her right to remain silent?
Yes, there's a form that we read to her, and we provided her with one to read as well.
Did she indicate to you that she understood all those rights?
Yes, she did.
Did she have any questions about any of them?
I don't believe she did, no.
And did you all ask her whether she would waive those rights and agree to speak to you?
Yes.
And did she do that?
Yes, she did.
And was that agreement memorialized on the form that you've discussed?
Yes.
And did she also memorialize her understanding of each of her rights by initialing next to each one of them?
Yes.
I'd like to approach with what I marked as State's Exhibit 80. Do you recognize that document?
Yes, I do.
Can you tell us what it is?
It is the FBI's template format for advice of rights. This is the document that I believe Agent Solomon read to her and explained prior to this interview.
And were you present for that?
Yes, I was.
Okay. I would introduce this as State's Exhibit 80.
Can I look at it real quick, Judge, just to make sure? I think I've seen it before. Okay. I think I've seen it, but I just want to make sure. No objection, Your Honor.
All right, 80 is admitted.
Now, how long roughly was this interview in its entirety?
Almost 3 hours.
Okay. I'm not going to watch the whole thing.
No.
Okay.
No.
Did it, like some of the other interviews we've heard about, start with this kind of long period of rapport building?
Yes, it did.
And eventually, did you all get into the substance of that night?
Yes.
Have we prepared a disc containing a few excerpts from this interview?
Yes.
And do those excerpts capture essentially what her story was for that day?
Yes, it does.
I'd like to approach with what I've marked as State's Exhibit 81. Do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
Can you tell us what it is?
It is a collection of the November 21st interview. It's a CD.
Series of excerpts.
Yes.
Do you remember how many total?
There's 3.
Okay. And what, could you just kind of describe to us what the 3 excerpts are, if you remember?
Sure.
And if not, we can just start going through them.
Yeah, so the first one is going to be kind of the initial conversation that we had about cocaine. In this video, you will see Leilani telling us what cocaine does to her, what she's learned, through some of the counseling that she's had. She'll talk about how she's, experienced illusions, change in emotions while high on cocaine, and we're discussing whether or not that's what happened that night. The second clip is Leilani changing the trash story. She's talking about how there's now 2 bags of trash, and we're discussing whether or not Quentin was in one of those bags of trash. The third clip is us confronting Leilani on how many stories she's told us over the last 2 months and why she told these stories.
Now, what was kind of her core claim on this day about what she remembered about the Azalea trip and the time period leading up to it? What was she saying to you on this day?
The majority of the time, she's saying that she doesn't remember the Azalea trip. She only remembers returning home, specifically going over the railroad tracks right before she gets to her residence. There's also other times where she says specifically that she was throwing away just trash, shrimp pasta, while at Azalea.
Did this claim that she was making to you about just not remembering anything from like 11 something to when she was driving home from Azalea sometime around 1:20 onward in the morning. Did this to you conflict with things she had told you before?
Yes, and in the same interview.
Okay. Do the clips on this disc fairly and accurately depict the portions of this interview that you're describing?
Yes, they do.
Other than it being excerpts cut out of a larger file, has it been altered or modified in any way that you know of?
No.
Your Honor, I would introduce this as State's Exhibit 81.
Judge, can we approach on this exhibit real quick? I just
Yes.
want to put something on the record with you.
Okay, we are back on the record.
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hilliard. State's Exhibit 81 is admitted without objection.
Before I hit play, where are you in here?
I'm right next to Agent Solomon, to her right, but I am off camera. Occasionally you'll see my arm, but majority of the time I'm off camera.
All right. This is the first file on the disc. It is 20 minutes and 1 second in length, and I'll play that now.
The only substance I ever consume is alcohol, so I know one drink versus several drinks feels. So how does like the equivalent of that? Like if you had your normal, like what does it feel like when you tripled your normal?
Honestly, time goes by quickly. You know what I mean? It's almost like you're discombobulated a little bit, if that makes sense. You're so high, you kind of lose touch with reality.
So how does that usually feel? Like what?
It's almost like that tunnel vision, you focus on this one thing, down, getting high.
Yeah.
So but you should have more. You're just focused on that one thing. But when you get that high or whatever, you start like, as they said, like, I didn't know the shit like made sense. It's like delusions in your own mind, which you lose touch with reality.
Like are you seeing things or your brain is just like making up stories?
Your brain makes up shit.
Yeah.
You can end up doing things like you don't even remember like getting up and making up high and it kind of did. That happens a lot. There's 20 months that I have woken up in the past and like there's screaming out there when the car's going somewhere else and I just don't know who.
Yeah.
And I blame
Terrifying.
I blame Danny.
For like going out like
So when I was on sleep or something, I swear up and down that he did.
but you think it was you when you were just on.
It's a possibility now that I know the effects, the extent of the effects that it can have on your brain, punch holes into your brain.
How long does that last? Like that particular feeling?
It's hard to,
Like it could be just 15 to 30 minutes for how long? Like what does this combo do?
makes you very energetic, very numb feeling, and you're having a lot of racing thoughts. Sometimes I hear things that it's not true, not there. Sometimes you see things that's not there. But there are times that they don't take, like shadow people. You know, there's times that they're late for days on it. I'm not paranoid with a kid. Me soon as a kid. And honestly, I can't even tell you half the shit I said. How I can't even tell you half the shit I said. You know, during those times, it's like it's all a mixture of things. But I can't tell you what was going on.
Will it come back later? Or is it just like,
It's almost like a black out dream. Thanks. You might get bits and pieces here and there, but you never get the full thing at the time.
so it's not like a dream where you were kind of
And you get like bits and pieces in there that you never get the full. It's, you know, not sometimes someone's like, you did this, and I'm like, no, I didn't.
Yeah.
Same thing happened when it gets hard. So it's like, you just don't know. It's almost like the light is on, you know, it's,
You're on that autopilot.
yeah.
So like in hindsight, now you think what happened?
I think it's a possibility. So I was still crying in class when they mentioned that some people get so high that their brain kind of just shuts down and they go on about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because I went out of class and sang and just started crying and she was just like, what's wrong? And I was just like, I just don't know what to think anymore. And naturally just go about the things that I was doing, what was happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cause you, I mean, it sounds like at least by like 1-3, you were pretty, at least learning to drive safely, you know, and all that. So kind of been for very long if you did consider it like that, right?
They say that it makes it last between up to an hour to 2 hours, so that you can move and function like you're home. Even in your head home, but you're not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So by the time like then you kind of come out, your memories get more clear and, you know, remember driving and, you know, operating car and going different places. Just kind of click back in.
Or maybe make sure so it makes sense of everything. Then I can't make sense of what happened before I left the house is right.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
No, it does.
I don't know exactly what happened.
Do you remember driving?
I remember driving back. I remember driving back home. You know, the whole drive there.
How about a feeling? Do you remember any feelings or?
I felt a lot of numbness. I had to do with college drugs. Honestly, they numb your feelings. They're not this suppressing. They numb your feelings. They numb just everything. Your body in general. Your lips, your mouth, your skin, everything is numb. Like at that point, somebody could have hit me with a sledgehammer.
You would have later.
Later, yes. Just, it's devastating. Everything I know is the same thing, do this.
Leilani, Savannah and I have been here with you from the start. I think you know that.
Yeah.
Her and I have basically been attached to your family, and I think both of us have an emotional connection to what happened.
Yeah.
And everyone right here wants to know what happened.
Which is why I can't feel them. His name was Phil. He's a really trouble. And that's what it does. And I started putting the pieces together for that, you know?
Yeah. You know,
And so I believe that I can know how fucked up I was. I just wanted to think like something like that.
things happen. None of us were in that position, none of us are now. But the best way we can move forward is finding out what happened. And I don't want it to come down to some bad person telling us. I don't want there to be any guess. I'm tired of the stories from the media, and I'm sure you are. People don't know what they're going to say when it comes out that we found him. You know, and we've seen how they treated you for the last, almost 2 months. And without your side of the story, it's going to be whatever they want to say.
I'm aware of that. I don't remember hearing him at all. I don't remember taking him and doing anything like this.
She's never coming back.
I remember coming home. Like I wanted him to my life. It was like I wanted that in bed. It was like everything was just normal. I don't know, I home and didn't understand exactly what I was in the car.
What about the next morning? 20 minutes in front.
So when I woke up, devastated. And I looked at my fucking thing, he wasn't there. I was really devastated. I just started screaming and calling everybody for help. that stuff did happen. Especially when someone said it's driving, just something. The driving? Yeah. When I talked about it, like, when I was pulling to me, I was ready for early tracks and everything. I was just, what am I doing? You know, I'm just, I didn't think that I did something like that, and taking me to go do some drugs, or pick up some drugs, somewhere. I've done that before, and, you know, fuck what I do. So much time, Chatham, man, because I lived in the hotel. You know, I was supposed to go like that, you know, all these things about the drugs I was doing, the house just baffles me. Because I don't understand. Well, they were making do some crazy shit, I don't know. I mean, when you talked about like the delusions and things like that, or just Francie's mind, is there something that would, you know, things up when they're not supposed to be, you know, or like demanding some attention, you know, is there something that... He was a good baby. When there was time to lay down, he would sit down, relax on the sofa. Was that ever annoying or just kind of really distracting? It was cute, honestly. It was someone actually singing to himself. We would sit there and laugh about it, trying to stay up his side, so we would jump out. You know, I'd peek around the corner. I mean, I have 2 cats and I barely take care of them. I can't imagine 3 children and the stress of everything that happened that night. The cats being expensive, they're kind of boring. Yeah. So I love him so much. Like I was saying, that sometimes when people are on drugs, we didn't realize that I'm not there, those they don't know. And I just all of that. I believe. I don't know what I believe. It's a hard thing to come to terms with. You know, I think that I mean, I know exactly. It's time, I don't know. I don't know what I did or what happened or what happened. Yeah. I don't know what I went to. Even I was like, when we called y'all about being in hypnotized. Yeah. That's how much we wanted to figure it out. You know, I was down for it. Well, it sounds like the eating part, you know, at least in terms of like removing it from allowing you to come from the outside in to help with that kind of thing too. Just kind of curious. So you woke up that morning, I was sleeping obviously, and remember, you know, coming back from Zambia. When did things kind of click in that, you know, with the orange album, you know, the logo and all that? Like, I knew what was going through your head. I knew that I had worked on the car, it's the only thing that made sense. I go to the store. Mm-hmm. And the only person I know who had only has worked there was Misty. So that's the only thing in my mind that made sense. Mm-hmm. That's why I love her. You know? So when she's like the only person I know out there except that you do Mark I used to work with. But I don't think I saw my hands. Oh no. I don't remember stopping Mary. Really, we're going to come back from the railroad tracks, like the bumps in the railroad tracks, I'll just stay from that back in. Yeah. Do you remember going into it, didn't you? Like the turn or anything? Hearing anything? Because you gave us pretty detailed story. I was looking at that like 360 thing, and I was just like, motherfucker. I'm gonna come back, that's where I'm going. And I was thinking, how many Misty? Or something, you know? Yeah. Which would have made sense. Oh no, I'm probably working in the alternative and I was out of my brain and it's so hard. I don't want to stay short at night. I had to try to remember the dreams if I have them and I don't because they say some things can come out of dreams. And you know, that's just totally different dreams. Ask me a lot. You don't have no dreams or anything like that. You don't understand it. What do you think people are going to say when it comes out that we found him? Poor mother. I'm trying to try. God knows exactly what they're saying. weren't planned out, and like you said, you worked really hard in the last, month and a half to get clean and recognize safe coping mechanisms and that kind of thing. But, a lot of times the wrong things line up, and something happens, and you remember leaving the dumpster, which is exactly how we were going to find him. We found him exactly in the middle of where we were looking, based on what he told us about going through his alley and stopping at the dumpster. We went, because it was, so knowing all of that, knowing you're in a state and something happens and you try to fix it right away. And I think in some ways tried to make it go away like it wasn't real. And then you woke up and realized it was real. But, we know that that's what happened, and it's going to be something you're going to have to come on with, and we know that people have been very cruel in the YouTuber culture and all of that I had never experienced or seen. I had never seen anything like that. That they're going to make their own stories now. And so I really hope that you can give you a second to just kind of think of what your story would be, for yourself. Because the only way you give Quinn peace and you give yourself peace and move forward for all of you is to realize and acknowledge what happened. And like you said, there was no premeditation, there's no planning, and frankly, I think if you would plan things, it would have not gone the way it went, because it's not planned, but your actions from that night are what brought us all here, and again, because you remember the trip to the dumpster is how we found, again, from head to toe, we found it. And so I really want you to kind of and did nothing close to remind how what I could have possibly done, and I don't know what could have possibly happened in that house. So I woke up and it was gone. And I'm gonna look down it. I don't know that today I'm going to. Because I'm going to be going to the race. I'm really know that. I think we can all agree that something new. We do figure out what happened. And there's a lot of really smart people right now. Running all their science on that. We're going to see what they have to say. I really don't think that you wanted this to happen. Because of what life did. And you know there's still your reason. And even when he's not here, he's still your reason. All three of them. And right now the reason for Quinn that I think we all want to be. This is what we know definitively happened. And now there's two of you that know that story. And hopefully Quinn's able to tell us. And we really hope that you're able to know your own truth and kind of know what role, your own action plays. Because there's no way for you to heal from it without being basic. And see it as what it is. Like you said, it wasn't this long-term Ocean's 11 keeper of, harming your child. You did harm your child, and you hit him. And that's just hit. I said, hit?
No, no. And, I mean, I never lied to you about anything. I never said anything to you that I didn't know or back to be true. And I don't believe that you hit him. But you hit him in the dumpster because you had harmed him in some way before that.
Said that I did do something. I wasn't there. Wasn't there.
Did she think that can come out? Like, how scary is it though to think that you have this gap? So how you did it?
I asked her about she thought I gave it back, and she said, honestly, if you were blacked out, you might not offend you 50 chance. It's just like when somebody blacks out from being drunk, you might not.
Yeah. Your brain just didn't process it anymore. What's the last thing you remember before?
Seeing him in bed.
And then it goes to driving back from Zoe. Did you see him in the bed right when you got home, or at some point, like you came home and did a plane and you saw him?
Yeah, he was lying in bed.
So what, that was like the
10 something, 10:40 something.
just when the rebound for the right trip. And that's your last memory of all of that night? You don't remember?
And then
Yeah.
I said, I had the railroad tracks, and she's like,
Now, at the end there, what did she arrive at ultimately for the period of time for which she was claiming a total lack of memory?
She said the last thing that she remembered was looking at Quentin and then driving back from Azalea.
Looking at Quentin after the Arkwright trip?
Yes, and then blacking out and then coming back to it as she's coming back from Azalea.
And what was she saying in there about what caused her to start forming memories again on the way back from Azalea?
Hitting the railroad tracks.
Okay, so fair to say she's claiming something like a 2-hour plus total lack of memory?
Yeah, she would have gotten back from Arkwright shortly after 11, and then she gets back from Azalea around 1:30. So yes.
Okay. And is it fair to say that that period of time for which she's claiming a total lack of memory would encompass both the time period in which law enforcement believed the murder had occurred and the time period in which the disposal of Quentin's body had occurred?
Yes.
So just like the times of the crimes.
Yes, it is.
This next clip, what is this clip movie?
So this is us touching on her previous statement back on 10/12, where she's describing very vividly how she threw away the trash, and we're asking her to revisit that memory that she's had. And she's telling us that there's 2 trash bags, and then you'll hear me ask specifically whether or not Quentin was in those trash bags.
And does she outright deny that Quentin was in one of those trash bags?
She does not.
And this clip is later in time than the bit we just watched.
Yes, it is.
This is when y'all are kind of reminding her of her previous statements, which seem to conflict with what she's just told you about this total lack of memory.
Correct.
The story with Sam and Brad.
there was another trash out there
Was that what Quentin was in?
before, there was like, 2 bags later. I can't remember. I know there was for food movies. Anyone got trying to do with them.
Did she use a trash bag?
I don't recall the trash bag. Oh my gosh. I don't recall the last thing before I left their house or we were trying to.
Did we hear you? She said there was a trash bag in there, right?
Yes.
And then you said, is that what Quentin was in? Is
Yes.
that right? And at that point, did she say, well, there were 2 trash bags?
Yes,
And did we hear you ask her, did you use a trash bag?
yes, I did.
And by that, did you mean, did you use a trash bag to dispose of Quentin's body?
Yes,
And was her answer to that, I don't remember grabbing a trash bag?
that was her answer.
In other words, she didn't say, well, hold on, I didn't dispose of his body.
She did not say that.
Mr. Dean, how long is this setting up?
It is about 3 minutes, right?
Okay.
Or this would be the third one. Do you remember what it is that we're gonna hear in this clip, more or less?
So we're challenging her on her many stories throughout the last 2 months and why she said these stories to us if she didn't have a memory, why she constantly changed, what happened that night, who went out to Azalea. It's kind of just our last crack at trying to find out what really happened.
Leilani, why did you tell us several times different stories?
I'm trying to wrap my brain around it. You said it was good few times that Brad sat there and told me that I killed my son. He was like, no, no, mother, isn't it? And then he watched me. I had no memory, so I know exactly where that. I know it was trash. Right now, I think makes sense how it is that it was totally, original. And when he said there was no way to go original, that's I think it was the other theory.
Which is,
That was totally trash. Get out of the house first. Wait for Daddy for a minute.
but we know now that that trip to Azalea, Quentin was there. So go back to that scene that you made, so Savannah and Brock. You remember seeing the trash bag, looking into it?
I didn't look into that. Tired it was.
Right. So you didn't actually look into it?
The only thing that could have been was a funny feeling.
You were pretty restricted though.
Because we had the smell, the smell of like shrimp pasta. Not even the smell. It's the same smell of beer when we took it out the fridge and threw it away.
So you remember wrapping it up?
I remember tying it back together so I could throw it in there. It wasn't heavy at all.
Now, Leilani, Jimmy, do you remember him being in that trash bag?
No.
We know at this point he was.
I don't remember that. I don't remember him in a bag. I don't remember leaving the house with him. I don't remember that. I don't remember that.
Why did you tell us all the story about just all of these stories, pretty much?
I'm trying to make sense of it myself. He was the one that was the one that said, I saw you in trash and threw it away.
And let me show you something. It's gonna help, but what Lemmons is asking right now. This is a very small fraction of the mountain. What that looks like at home is trash. And everything to the left and right of that is trash. You see how little those people are. Do you think that we could have found him if we didn't know that you put him in the dumpster and we knew exactly where that dumpster went? Yeah.
Did we hear her say the word theory at some point in there?
That's what she refers to it, yes.
What was the theory thing? What was she saying?
She's saying that every time that she lied to us was her sharing her latest theory.
In other words, she wasn't claiming that she was making factual statements about what happened. She was saying she was just kind of throwing out theories.
Yes,
She was describing the Oragel story as just a theory that she had proposed?
yes,
And was she saying that she had only proposed it because, well, she had come to and found Oragel and was trying to figure out how?
yeah, she said she found it in her vehicle and that's the only thing that made sense to her.
And Did she describe her story about throwing away trash as just a theory that she had come up with in response to Brad asking her whether she had thrown away trash?
Yes.
Now, I want to just ask you about a couple features of these prior stories that she's referring to as theories, okay?
Okay.
You talked to her on October 5th when she first launched the Oragel story, right?
Yes, I did.
Did this story include who she had gotten it from?
Yes, it did.
Did it include where she had gotten it?
Yes.
Did it include when she had gotten it?
Yes.
Did it include why she had wanted it and obtained it?
Yes.
Did it include details such as how many tubes of Oragel she got and how many were opened already and how many were unopened?
Yes.
The story about throwing away trash that she gave to Special Agent Snyder and Special Agent Solomon on October 12th, did that include such details as specifically what the trash was,
Yes, it did.
what it smelled like,
Yes.
how long it had been in the car,
Yes.
when she first registered the odor of the trash,
Yes.
what kind of trash bag it was,
Yes.
what color the ties on the trash bag were.
Yes, it was a very vivid story.
An admission to having looked inside the trash bag before throwing it away.
Yes, she said that.
An estimate of how much the trash bag weighed.
Yes.
And a statement about the exact physical mechanics of how many hands she used to put it in the dumpster.
Yes.
You had either conducted those interviews or observed them prior to this interview, right?
Correct.
Did any of those things sound like mere theories to you at the time that she said them?
No, they did not.
Now, in this interview, particularly in the first bit we watched, the 20-minute bit, was she asked at some point by you, I think we can all agree that something did happen,
Yes.
and did she nod her head yes in response to that?
Yes, she did.
Was she asked, do you think you may have killed him or something to that effect?
Yes.
And is it the case that she was just not able to give an answer to that or just didn't really say anything?
That's correct.
Was she, at some point, did Special Agent Solomon say, you harmed your child and hid him, or words to that effect?
Yes, she said that.
And is it fair to say that the defendant just did not affirmatively dispute that? She didn't say, no, I didn't.
She did not.
And separately, did Special Agent Solomon say, you hid him in the dumpster because you had harmed him in some way?
She said that.
And did she also fail to dispute that statement?
Yes, she did.
One moment, please. No further questions, Your Honor.
This is the first time I really had a chance to speak to Lee, so I'm going to go way back to the beginning for that reason, okay? Give me 1 second. I picked up the wrong pad. So you arrived on scene at 10:30 on October 5th, correct?
No, after 12.
After 12? Okay. And how long were you on scene on October 5th?
On scene, probably about an hour.
All right. And at what point in time did you take Miss Simon, Mr. Youngkin, and Mr. Simon over to the precinct that day?
I asked one of the patrol officers and some of the detectives to have them transported probably within that hour.
Okay. So probably around 1 o'clock then? Just trying to get a general idea.
Yes.
So on October 5th, around 1 o'clock, all three of them went over to I guess it's the police.
The
precinct?
headquarters?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And how long were they there on October 5th?
Until about 2 a.m. the following day.
So about 13 hours, right?
Yes, sir.
And over the course of the trial, we've seen a number of interviews during this time, correct?
Yes, sir.
And during that time, you were also speaking with, I'm going to assume, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, you're speaking with Ms. Simon, Mr. Youngkin, and Mr. Simon, as well as others at the time, but those were the three main ones, right?
That our team spoke with, yes.
Yes. Okay. So that was 13 hours on the 5th to the 6th. When did you next speak with Ms. Simon or have your team speak with Ms. Simon?
We were in communication with her for probably the next 2 weeks, almost every day.
Every day? When you say ran communication, I guess that means phone calls?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And when was the next, I guess, in-person interview?
October 8th,
And how long was that one?
almost 2 hours.
And that was at CCPD as well?
No, that was at the FBI office.
And give me 1 second, I'm running out of room here quickly. And when was the next one after that?
October 12th.
And how long was that one and where was that?
That was almost 2 hours as well, and that was at the FBI office.
And during this time frame too, this is the phone call? You still having phone calls during this 2-week time frame?
Yes, sir.
All right, so it's 13 hours on the 5th, 2 hours on the 8th, 2 hours on the 12th. When exactly was the hotel room video and audio?
What part of it?
The actual time that we were in the hotel room when y'all were videotaping it.
The 8th and 9th.
That was October 8th to 9th, correct?
Yes, sir.
And during the same time frame, you were wiretapping Daniel Youngkin's phone from, I think, around the same time, October 8th or 9th, for about 60 days, right?
Yes.
Intercepting all of the phone traffic between him and her.
Yes.
And just, not that it matters, a rough estimate is even after you arrested Miss Simon, you still intercepted his phone calls between them, correct?
Yes.
So that was at least, generally speaking, between October 8th, 2022 to December 8th, 2022, correct?
Yes.
All right, so that's going on at the same time the other interviews are going on, right?
Yes.
So October 12th, I'm sorry, was the next in-person interview. When was the next interview that your team did of Miss Simon at that point?
After October 12th?
Mm-hmm.
October 31st.
All right. And how long was that one and where was that one?
That was at the FBI office, and I believe that one was also probably 2 hours.
2 hours. Okay. And the next one after that?
Would be her final interview when she was arrested.
All right. And what day was that?
That was on November 21st.
And that one was how long?
3 hours.
And so from October 5th to November 21st, were you still in constant contact with her?
The team was.
The team was. And by the team, you mean yourself, Agent Solomon, Agent Schneider, and anyone you delegated to do that, correct?
Yes.
All right. Now, and you said that on, I think it was November 21st, she expected to be arrested when she came in, correct?
Yes.
And you asked her to come in, correct?
Yes.
And she came in, correct?
Yes.
All right. Now, we've seen some of the excerpts here that you put up here today. Now, let me ask you this. What interrogation technique were we just witnessing on this particular video?
I don't have a name for the technique. We were having a conversation.
All right. Well, you said you don't have a name for it, but you've gone to the academy, correct?
Ah,
And you were trained in interrogation techniques, correct?
yes.
And what interrogation techniques were you trained in?
I don't have the name for the techniques. My way of doing it is just making sure I have the full story. And if I don't understand anything in somebody's story, I just keep asking questions until I do.
Okay. So in this particular technique, though, which what you just witnessed, And we've seen the entire time. Is it safe to say that you're putting individual stressors on the interview subject?
In which interview?
All of them.
It depends on what you would say is a stressor. We're talking about her dead child, but
Okay, well, and that's my follow-up question. Wouldn't you think speaking about that would be a stressor?
yes,
Okay, and wouldn't you think that speaking about that would evoke an emotional response?
yes.
Okay, and you seem to have had opinions about that emotional response, but what have you been trained that is the appropriate emotional response? Do you have a level?
Can you restate your question?
I can. So if you are overly hysterical, then you're overly hysterical. If you are not hysterical enough, then you're not hysterical. How do you gauge the appropriate response level to your questioning for you to be satisfied? What's the right answer? What could ever be the right answer?
For what appropriate reaction she had?
Yes.
I'm basing that on previous interviews I've done with families that have lost their children.
Right. But every individual is different, are they not?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So in this particular case, a number of times Mr. Dean has asked you a number of questions and you said it wasn't emotional enough or it was too emotional, hysterical. How do you make that determination? What is the appropriate objective standard by which you can judge that?
I believe I focused on the October 5th interview when she would do the screaming and yelling portion.
Okay. And that was when you made your decision, correct? October 5th?
Decision about what?
As to how and where you were going to focus your attention in this investigation.
No.
Okay. Then when did you decide that Ms. Simon wasn't your prime suspect?
She was our prime suspect, you mean?
I said, when did you decide that she wasn't? If you said you didn't do it on October 5th, okay, so you're saying she wasn't your prime suspect on October 5th?
No, we looked at all three of the adults in the residence as possible suspects.
Okay. So that being said, you looked at all three of the adults. Did you ever look outside of the residence as a possible suspect?
Yes.
Okay. And what did you do to pursue any of that?
Outside the residence?
Hmm?
So we did a canvas, as we've previously talked about.
Right.
No leads came up with that of any suspicious persons around the residence. We set up the tip line that did not prove any other suspicious persons. We spoke with probably every single family member of this family in Savannah. None of those had any guesses on who it could be, including the three people that lived there.
And let me ask you this about your interviews with Ms. Simon. All of the interviews, she was free to walk away or not engage in those interviews, correct?
Until the final one.
The final one was a little bit different, correct? Because you already had warrants at that point.
Yes.
Okay. So and even knowing that, she still came to that one, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, Mr. Dean asked you a question about whether or not she denied something, but not denying something is also not admitting something now, is it?
No.
They're not the same thing, are they?
No.
Okay. So, and my recollection was, I don't think she's ever, in any of the interviews, admitted to harming Quentin, has she?
No.
Now, in the last interview, at that point in time, had you ever determined a manner or cause of death for Quentin Simon?
I have an opinion on how he died.
I didn't ask you your opinion. I've asked you if you've determined, has a doctor made a medical determination as to manner, method, or time of death?
No, due to the remains, we were unable to find that.
So that's no. Okay. And that being said, when you were interviewing Miss Simon on that last particular day, you focus on a lot of things that weren't said, but she never said that she killed Quentin, and she never said that she disposed of his remains, did she?
She said she did not remember.
Okay. Now, you said you have an opinion, but opinions are just that. They're not based, they're just your opinions, right? I have opinions, you have opinions. People have opinions, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And opinions are not evidence, are they?
No.
That's all the questions I got, Judge.